the key for me with forgiving myself that I've learned the most is that because of the gift of forgiveness that I give myself continuously, I have so much grace and so much more understanding and so much more patience for others, because the way we treat ourselves is the way we treat others. So when I hear mothers say, "Oh, I love my children more than I love myself," that's impossible. You want more acceptance from your children than you're willing to give yourself, but you don't love yourself, love them more, because you're teaching them how to love you by the way you love yourself.
Good evening. Happy Wednesday, my winners and goal getters. Welcome to another edition of the Getting the Win Show. I am your host, Melissa T, the procrastination bully. And as a reminder, our mission with this show is to help women who've navigated a trauma or transition find healing through writing and publishing their first book. And there is no better guest to demonstrate that than today's guest. Today, I'm speaking with Tuniscia Okeke, who is a forgiveness coach. So she travels the world teaching people, sharing tools on how to practice forgiveness, forgiving yourself, forgiving different members of your family, forgiving the way, forgiving your relationship to money, forgiving whoever you need to forgive in order to heal and move forward. Tuniscia has an entire process with this, and we dig into all of that in this conversation. And the biggest thing, the loudest thing that made me want to invite Tuniscia onto the show is that she published a whopping 35 books in 9 months, 9 months. 35 books in print in 9 months. And trust me, we get into that as well. If you're wondering how in the world she did it, we get into that. And we even get a bit of a preview because she does bring one of the books into the interview. So definitely stay tuned to this one. And if you are a note taker, you'll want to take notes on this one. Enjoy the interview. As promised, ladies and gentlemen, I have the one and only Tuniscia Okeke in the building. Welcome, Tuniscia. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Likewise. So when you first introduced yourself in the UOU Mastermind and then you dropped the fact that you did 35 books in 9 months, I was like, I need to talk to this girl. Like, how did she do that?
I love it.
Amazing. The other thing that I thought was so intriguing was, I believe it was just yesterday when you specified that it was a message on forgiveness that you felt the assignment from God to put out into the world. So I definitely want to dig into both of those things. So first, before we start there though, like let our audience know a little bit of who you are, what you do, and what inspired you to put those books out.
Absolutely. So I'm Tuniscia Okeke. I am a forgiveness coach, a writer, 36-time a writer, and I get to travel the world. Fun fact, I've gone to 4 different continents in person, not via Zoom. There's a difference. Both are good, but in person with the message of supporting people with forgiving, healing, and growing. The best way I explain it is forgiveness is something from the past. Healing is something that we do presently, and growth is something for our future. So past, present, future. So that's the best way. So I always say forgive, heal, and grow with Tuniscia O.
I love it. I love that. I love that distinction. I never thought of it in that way. So that's very helpful. Yeah. Wow. So let's dig into what inspired that assignment then, like to be a forgiveness coach in particular. What's that
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, when we first I started my corporation back in 2018, and it's called Blending Our Love. And so I thought I was going to support people with their stepmotherhood journey, because I'm a stepmother, but I don't use the word step. I just focused on motherhood. And then as I got into it, I was like, oh, I really don't want this to be only what I do. And so every year, God gives me an assignment for the year of what I'm going to do, right? So in 2019, December 31st, he was like, for next year, and we all know what happened in 2020, he said, every day I want you to post a message on forgiveness. And I thought that was odd, because that was not at all what direction I was headed in at all in my business. So I was like, God, is there really 365 things that you could talk about on forgiveness? And he said, go live every day for 365 days. Right. And I was like, I was cool with the going live, but I was like, is there really that many things? But pause in that one thing, that just shows when you're obedient, right? You may not know exactly what it means, but just do it. It didn't make complete sense, but I was like, okay, fine. So I go and I start this conversation on forgiveness, and Of course, I'm looking for different things and things are falling into my place, into my lap. And I'm talking about forgiving my mother for lying to me about who my father was for 24 years and how long it took me to forgive her and how it impacted my relationship with my children and all these things. And so as the time passed, of course, an audience will tell you what they love. And so I started receiving all these messages where people were talking about their forgiveness journey. And so then I started coaching and all those good things. But then by 2022, God was like, you're going to write 27 books. And I have it written down somewhere. And I was like, okay, on forgiveness. And I literally wrote down what the titles were going to be. Okay. But then 2023 hit and he was like, lean in, young lady. Do not do anything else. You cannot create another coaching package because it's distracting you. You're making the money. I was doing all the things. No coaching, no more courses, no masterclass, nothing until this assignment is complete. I'm not blessing anything until this assignment is complete. And so I put my head down. And in 9 months, I realized it wasn't 27 books or so. It ended up being 35. And the reason why is as writers, so often people are trying to flood one book with too much information. And I realized that, and that's the key point, right? So I realized that I needed to break it down. And as I'm sitting here, I was like, why didn't I just bring the stack of books? Because it's one thing to say 35 books. It's a different if I were to hold them in front of you right now to show you
Wow.
what that looks like. And I have them, of course, downstairs in my library. But so I broke down. I realized forgiving God, forgiving people who reject you, forgiving yourself, forgiving your ex, forgiving your husband, forgiving a co-parent, forgiving your mother, forgiving your father, forgiving siblings, forgiving people who reject you. How about accepting the gift of forgiveness? Forgiving an abuser. When we think about forgiveness, most people don't think about how many aspects of unforgiveness you might be struggling with. And when you go through a healing journey, it's not just one thing. Like if you have a breakup, you're forgiving that person. Let's just say it's your husband. You're forgiving your husband. You're forgiving your mother for not teaching you properly who not to pick in the first place. You're forgiving your father because if he was in your life, you might not have picked the joker in the first place. You're forgiving your children who want to love their father, but you're like, I was there for you more. Like their friends who might pick him over you. There are all these aspects. And so I found it best to have 35 different books on who you're forgiving. Forgiving and overcoming mom guilt is one of the books. So I have these 35 different books to talk about aspects of forgiveness. And that has been dynamic. And I was able to separate different things that people might have going on. And that's how we got to 35.
That is amazing. That is amazing. That is amazing. So in terms of the speaking that you're doing, is it, how are you pitching those particular companies or parties, organizations, whatever that the case may be? Are you niching based on the specific type of forgiveness per those organizations? Or are you just saying in general, like I'm a forgiveness coach, I speak on this? How does that work for you?
That's a great question. So believe it or not, the connections that I've had through social media, those are the doors that have really opened for me. Like people who already work in this organization, I've worked with. I've spoken at Best Buy. I've worked with George Floyd's family. You know, like all of these different, and there's so many different beautiful people that I've had a chance to connect with. But it wasn't just because of the books; it was because of the connection and the healing and the work that I'm doing. Otherwise, and I want to pause really quick to say this: people always think that you need to have 20 billion followers and different things. Nope, just one. You only need one person to believe in you. First of all, that's you to just show up for yourself. And then all of the opportunities presented themselves based on me showing up for me and then people connecting with me from that. That's important because a lot of people think you have to have a bunch of people. And so when I'm talking about the books, it's not even the books. The books are something that are there so that people know, oh, she's serious about this. And it also allows you to be an expert in whatever conversation that you're having. So it's not the books that I'm necessarily selling as much as the healing and the forgiveness and the outcome that that particular company is seeking for. So the books are one thing and I do sell them while I'm there, but every person is taking something different. You know, we got a room full of executives and everyone is needing something different. So I'll lead the conversations with whatever it is they're asking me to come in because most companies will tell you what their
Yeah.
focus is. And then the books are a separate thing.
That makes sense. Okay, that's awesome. And
So
congrats on.
a school may say, P.S. Forgive yourself first. I've noticed it's amazing when I'm in elementary schools, when I'm talking about my books, smaller children are already talking about forgiving their siblings. That's like a key
Yes.
for elementary school children. And it's amazing how these young kids already have this sassy response to what they think about their daddy based on their mama. Like it's all these things. So I've gotten a chance. And then the number one response when I'm in high schools, alternative schools, is the teenage boys are always needing to forgive their father. That's what they pick. Because I'll put the books out and say which one resonates. And the girls will top choice forgiving their mother or forgiving friends. So it's
Yep.
interesting looking at our age brackets and how different. So I tailor that conversation to whomever I'm supporting in that moment.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's great. There's so much in there that I definitely want to dig into now. um, Firstly, if you're open to discussing this or allowed to, I don't know what the contract was, but I would love to hear more about how you were able to connect with George Floyd's family and be able to speak with them. Kind of talk about that experience.
Absolutely. I'll say enough what's public, what I can say, and then
Yeah.
leave the rest. But so I have a client who lives in Minnesota. We all know that Minnesota is where everything took place. And she's a dynamic community leader. And I coached her one-on-one for quite some time, still, connected to her now. And so I'm trying to think the first time I met them. I believe the first time I met them was they had I think it was the third anniversary of his death. And so they had a huge event. It was at Best Buy. And so I was able to connect with the family and just be me because they're people. And I
You're
see
right.
everyone. We all put our pants on one leg at a time, and that's just how it is, right? And so I was just able to connect with them. And while we were there at the event, I found myself, it was really interesting. I just found myself right where they were, just laughing and chatting because most people are coming to them for something. Me, I was just happened to be wherever
There.
they were. And so yeah, it was just a thing. And so, but my client made that connection. And so even till now, I'll reach out, hey y'all, whatever the case may be. And so just being able to support and love people the way I would want support and love in something so traumatic, and trying to redefine how you can make something so hard still beautiful, and a legacy and all of those things. So but that was how it's usually always in connections. So I
Yeah.
didn't have to seek them out. My client introduced me, and then that was the lane. So it
That's
was
beautiful.
easy. It was I mean, I didn't even sign up. It just literally fell into my lap.
Awesome. So was it that how did the family receive you? Like, was it, you sharing stuff on forgiveness with them, or just having that conversation just created a deep connection with you and the family?
So, one, I want to be really clear. I am not like their personal everyday we
No.
talk. No, no. I want to say that because I don't want anybody like, oh my God, we don't even know her. And so there are people that you see more frequently in a more public eye. And so how did I connect? I know I really wasn't connecting originally like, hey, come for forgiveness. It was more like we were just out there having fun celebrating George Floyd's life while we were out in the square. And I was just there. You know what I mean? I had
Yeah,
my
yeah.
sons with me, and they were connected and understood what I spoke to regarding forgiveness, because some of them were at Best Buy when you stand up to give your introduction and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
they knew what I did and all that. So it wasn't a thing where I needed to do too much of anything. Sometimes it's not about the depth or how much time you spend with someone. It's about the time you do spend with someone and how impactful they are. And I'm talking surface. I've had other conversations with them about things, but I'm just kind of being with the general thing of how it came
Yeah.
about. And if there was anything to take away from what I'm saying right now, it's not about who they are. It's all about I showed up for myself through social media consistently. I didn't pay attention to how many people were following me or on that page. I just was committed and dedicated to the people who were there, and that
Mhm.
opened the door for other things. I think that too many people give too much attention to how many people are following them. Also, I would love to share that I am somebody who is tenacious in what I want for myself. I am not afraid of no. I have had the pleasure of interviewing Erica Campbell and oh goodness, Sarah Jakes, like different people like that. Why? Because I asked. So like most people will go up, Melissa, and they want to ask for a picture. Me, I have one question that I always ask people, and I'll say, "Hey, you mind if I record you really quick?" And I'll ask a question, and that question for me is, "Who or what did you have to forgive to get to where you are?"
Oh, that's
When
good.
you're asking a person a question about themselves, they want
Yeah.
to talk. Most people want to talk about me. Hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. They're not worried about that. Everyone's doing that. But how many people pause to care about you and
Hmm.
you and what you have going on? And so that's one of the things. So I've had a chance to just talk to all these leaders, whether they were like the president of various banks. It doesn't matter. If you're there and I have a question, because I think if more of us can know what other people did to get to where they are, how dynamic is that, right? My biggest struggle is I have a lot of interviews in my phone that I actually need to publish. So my accountability in this moment is to get those videos published, because I have so many conversations that I've had with people. So that's that. Hope that
Okay.
helps.
That does. And now I have what to hold you accountable for.
Yes, thank you.
For sure, for sure. And by the way, same. Like I spent 9 years in the media industry, so I feel you in terms of just asking folks. You know what I mean? Like people, people like the opportunity to talk about themselves, especially if you're approaching them from a place of genuine curiosity. It's like you're
Yes,
not just asking them the question because you want to be on camera with them, but like
correct.
you're asking because you really want to know. You know what I mean?
Right.
And people can tell the difference. They can
Oh, of
sense when you're
course.
there for self-interest versus when you're there to
Of course.
genuinely talk. Ask. Go
Hence
ahead.
me with all these videos that have still not been published. You know what I mean? Like I posted, but they haven't been posted. Like, girl, get it
Yeah.
together. You need to get it
Yeah,
together.
and I mean, and I love your question because your question is a deep one. Like, it's not a surface thing where you're asking them to promote something that they're even there to promote or whatever. You're asking about them and like
Yes,
something deep that they wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to talk about. So
correct.
that makes a huge difference for
And
sure.
it's on brand, right? It's not random. It's completely on, it's right on brand.
Absolutely. To that point, though, I would love to ask that of you. Like, what is like the one thing the one forgiveness experience that you've had to, undergo to get where you are now?
Oh gosh. That right there. First of all, it's always forgiving myself. And
Mm,
and that is the number one answer when I've asked, because I've asked so many people, it's forgiving myself. And giving myself permission to know that it's not a one and done. It's forgiving myself when maybe I feel like I didn't answer that question right. Forgiving myself quickly when my mind wants to start playing tricks on me, like you should have asked, you shouldn't have asked, you did it right, you did it wrong. Like, hey, it's done. I can't even undo it. You know what I mean? Can't cry over spilled milk. Like it's forgiving myself for the mother that I was and the mother that I want to be, and also realizing, forgiving myself that I don't have to become who other people want me to be because it makes them feel better. I get to just be
mm,
who I am. And so it's these multifaceted layers of forgiving past money mistakes, which is one of my books, right? Forgiving all of these various aspects of myself, but understanding that it's not a one size fits all. It's just forgiveness. But the key for me with forgiving myself that I've learned the most is that because of the gift of forgiveness that I give myself continuously, I have so much grace and so much more understanding and so much more patience for others, because the way we treat ourselves is the way we treat others. So when
yeah.
I hear mothers say, "Oh, I love my children more than I love myself," that's impossible. You you want more acceptance from your children than you're willing to give yourself, but you don't love them more because you're teaching them how to love you by the way you love yourself. And so that's the key, self forgiveness. And I think I mentioned earlier, my understanding of how I treated my own mother turned around to show me how my children treated me. And I was like, oh, why are they this way? And God was like, well, you taught them how to love you through that nice nastiness that you gave your own mama because she lied to you about who your father was. And although you didn't lie to them about who their father was, you still taught them how to love you. And so I had to be accountable for where I was in my life. And here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. And
Um,
who knew that I would have such a devastating, I've had a devastating, I haven't shared it publicly yet, like year and a half, but those forgiveness books, boy, listen, whatever the people watching this are, whatever it is that you are deciding to create for others, just leave so much space to know that you may have learned some things, but you don't know if what you're putting out will be the exact thing you need to help you heal the next version of yourself. And that's what I found for myself in those 35 books.
yeah, please talk a little bit more about that, because that's one of the purposes for what I do as an author guide. Like,
Okay.
I'm talking to women who have navigated a trauma or major life transition, and
Mhm.
to help them find healing through writing that first book, writing and publishing that first book. Because you'd be surprised what you discover when you go back into the experience, because that's one of the main pain points, that's one of the main fears that keeps them from
Yeah,
writing the book. It's like, I don't know if I want to revisit this again.
right.
However, you'll be amazed at what you discover, to your point that you just made. Like the thing that you're writing, the purpose you're writing the book for, you
Mhm.
might find yourself on a slightly different trajectory once you actually start the process. So I'd love to, hear you like explore that a little bit for our audience. Like, what was that sort of transformation for you as you were writing the books?
Sure. So, as I was writing the books, what's interesting is as we go through our healing journey, it's easy to forget. I'll speak for myself, but I say we because I've talked to so many people, but I'm going to speak for this conversation for myself, and then
Mhm.
you can insert yourself where you want to. But for me, it was easy for me to realize because had already done so much healing work before I wrote the book. I
Mm,
found myself not as in depth. And first of all, it was all about forgiveness. And when I wrote these books were their journals, they're books, but they're spaces for them to write. But I wrote them for them to see themselves, right? For them to ask themselves these questions and dive deeper. But I found that as I wrote, I had done so much healing that I had forgotten the depth of pain that I was in. And
mm,
so while you're writing, while I was writing, it was important for me to remember where I was, what was happening in various stages of my life, to be really, really honest with myself, because people love healing, but they also need to feel understood. So if I'm just
true.
talking like I'm up on this mountain of glory, and everybody likes to talk about the glory, but if we're really honest with ourselves, think about the people that you love and admire the most. Those people share some of their most vulnerable and transparent moments. And that is what connects you with them, because you're like, oh,
Yeah.
they're like me. They might have a little bit more, but they started where I started. I understand where they were, and now I can get to where I'm going. And so being able to be honest with yourself, but this is the part, and it makes me want to swallow hard, that many people struggle with. They're afraid of what their family and friends will say, because most
Yes.
times, whatever that story is, it typically involves someone that they love deeply, that they loved deeply, or maybe their children will be feeling some kind of way because it's a parent or someone that they love. But it's important to be really genuine and true to who we are. It was important for me to be honest with who I am and where I am when telling my story, without worrying about how everyone else is going to take it, how they're going to be. Because when I did it that way, I was going to be too watered down, and I was too watered down. And so that's a part. But the only way to get to that side, Melissa, is to get really honest with ourselves about who we are, where we are, and am I really ready and willing to tell this story? And then why?
Mm,
Am I writing this book because I want to punch it to them and show them something? Am I writing this book because I really want to support myself and speak up for myself? Am I writing this book because I really want to help other people? Because a lot of people will say they're doing something because it's for someone else. But the truth is, you should be doing something for yourself. That book should not just be for everyone else, because if no one else ever read it, would you read it? Would you
that
consume it? Like, literally right now, as we speak, I think it's on the other side. I'm literally binging my own books. I have all these books. I'm literally right now doing
same.
forgiving past money mistakes. You see, like, I'm on day 16. Today was day 16 of 21 days, right? Like, and when I finish that book, I'm gonna go to the next one. You want to produce something that you want to consume that is special and sacred to you. And if you are the only person, does your heart smile every time? Write like no one is listening. Write like no one is reading it but you. Write from your heart, your soul. So get to the core of why you're doing it and be honest with yourself as you're writing. Don't write because grandma might read it. I don't want to say it that way. Don't write because, ooh, so and so is going to be upset. Y'all, they're going to be upset anyway about
That part.
something. So don't let it be about your book. They was already upset before you started writing. So just be. That's the core. Just decide how honest you're going to be, not from a place of heartache, pain, vindictive, but just true, transparent honesty of what it is that you want to say, what you experienced, and move from there. But you got to be unapologetic. Everyone says, Melissa, that they're unapologetic, but that's not true. They mostly are apologetic. Like, ooh, I don't want to hurt your feelings. You just got to go for it. Don't ask for
Very true.
permission. If you need to ask for forgiveness later, think about that. But you got to go for it first. Ask for forgiveness after.
Absolutely. Tim Ross, who's a former pastor, he's now a full-time podcaster. He also has done the healing work, and he's been in therapy for 28 years. And one of the things, right, one of the things he says, and I love the way he phrases it, is it is perfectly possible to honor somebody while being honest about the way you experience them. So
That's
that's
so
what I
good.
share with my
Mhm.
aspiring authors that have that exact same concern in terms of whether or not to write the book. Like, oh, so and so's gonna be mad. It's like, well, you experience them in a particular way, and
Right,
the like it's only you. Like nobody else experienced them the way you did. So it's
right.
perfectly possible for you to honor them, speak of
Mhm.
them respectfully, and this is the way I experience them.
Yep, exactly.
Is that
That's it.
simple?
Yeah. And it doesn't sound simple to some, but the truth is, it is that simple.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. That
is. We
difference
could
between
just
simple and easy. Like it's not easy
exactly,
because you got
exactly,
feelings involved, like your heart is
exactly.
involved in that, but it
Yes,
is simple. Like the
it
solution
is
is
simple.
simple and clear.
Yeah.
So in terms of, the motherhood thing, I would love to dig into that a little bit more. Um, in terms of you as a daughter, obviously we heard your story in terms of mom lying about who the bio father
Mhm.
was. What was that childhood experience like for you, like growing up with her? And was there was there a stepdad in your life, or was it like a co-parenting thing? What was your dynamic like growing up?
Sure. So the story is, story goes, not how it really was, but the story goes, my father passed away when I was 2 years old. So I spent most of my life just believing that my father had passed away. And you can't really argue with death. You know what I mean? You can't miss, or I didn't really grieve the loss of a father because like everybody else's dad may have walked him to school or whatever it was, but my daddy wasn't here to do that. So what you gonna do? Right. That was just kind of how my mother presented it and I carried it. There are people who have a different experience. I didn't have any pictures with this man, memories. Like my mother didn't have any of all these memories. The one memory that I got to hold on, there was no conversation and no memory. So you can't miss what you really don't have. I didn't have context for that. So we have that in this quadrant over here. And then when I'm 24 years old, my mom calls me and she's like, well, what led to it was the day before was Father's Day, and the pastor had a sermon on a father like one and having fathers and they're like, whether it's an uncle or whoever is like a father to you. So my mom decided that was her time to be very transparent and honest. And she was like, called to me. She's like, Tanisha, remember that guy I told you was your dad? Yeah, he's not really your dad. Oh, great, mom. Thanks. Like it was the most casual thing. And so at the time I was a paralegal, I went to work. I asked the attorney, I was like, hey, my mom says that this guy is not my dad. I got the man's information because this particular attorney was a private investigator. I call. Long story short, the man was like, yeah, you're my daughter. I always knew you were my daughter. I was like, okay. So now the man that I thought was dead is not my father. Now there's another character introduced to the story at 24, and that's how it was. Yes, I had stepfathers. I had two stepfathers. One when I was younger, and then another when I was like a teenager, young adult. So they were there, not very impactful. My first stepfather, he was far more loving. The second one, not so much enduring. But So I did have men in my life, but they weren't really fatherly role models for me. And that was that's pretty much the thing. So then, I'm a mother, and understanding how to be a mother with your children, and how to accept the children who have a father, and how to be like, there's all these dynamics to all of that. I hope that answered your question. But growing up, I really didn't have a father figure, and I waited until I was 30 something years old, and finally I was like, I want to know who my father is for sure. If this man who says he's my father, is he really? You have DNA. And so I didn't get a DNA test from him, even though he was saying he was. But the half sister, she agreed to do the DNA test, and he was, in fact, my father. So at least I had that answer. And he passed away before I met him. Talked to him on the phone for like 1 year. And I had an opportunity to meet him, but there was so much. I'm saying so much and so little at the same time for the sake of time. But I had an opportunity to meet him, but he was so mean and so cold. I had to make a really adult decision to decide, will I live with the fact, if he's not nice, if he's mean, and my only encounter with this man is this one memory? Because if he's the way he's been thus far, I'm better off just not having a meeting with him. And I chose not to meet him, and I'm thankful for that, because at least I can keep things the way I needed to. I have lovely messages and things, but sometimes in our journey we create this perfect picture thinking that it needed to be a certain way, and I realized that God was protecting me the whole time. And so I just kind of let things be as they needed to be, and I did not meet him before he passed. I did write his eulogy. I did attend his funeral. So the only time I was there was for the funeral. I did all the things still as his oldest daughter to honor a man that I had never met, but I made peace with not having met him. And that's just part of acceptance, Melissa. Like, we get to a point in our life where we just accept what is. And that was how I decided to handle it.
That's great, though. I'm glad you shared that. And in sharing that, you actually demonstrated what I just said, like honoring somebody while being honest about the way you experience them. And I
Exactly.
love the fact that you were able to write his eulogy, like even after he passed away, and as his eldest daughter. I think that's a big bit of growth.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Um,
And the children that were in his life didn't even want to do it. Like, let me just be
mhm.
clear. Like, I saw the children that were actually involved in his life, and I said, I actually thanked my mother. I ain't gonna hold you. I said, Mama, I just want to thank you because you kept me away from them people. Like, girl, you did your big one with that one. Good job. Because they seem to be struggling more with the experience with him than I was, because I didn't know what I missed. And it looks like I didn't miss too much. So I'm okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this brings up an interesting point about the power of perspective, because there you could have gone the ET route. We know ET's backstory. That's Dr. Eric Thomas for you watching and listening.
Yes.
And he shares the emotional turmoil he experienced by not having his father in his life. And it wasn't until he was a full grown adult, like 40s, that he
Yep.
finally realized it was actually a gift that he didn't have his dad, kind of. You know what I mean? He was able to meet him in his 30s. He was finally able to go to him in person and talk to him and ask him, like, why were you not in my life? And it was as a result of that conversation that he got the enlightenment he needed. Like your mom said, your mama said. And at first ET was like, what do you mean my mama said? And then he caught himself and he was like, okay, I got it. But that helped him gain a better perspective of, like, okay, now that I know the reason, I know I'm
Mhm.
not a victim. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, now I've talked to this man, I heard what the reason was. Like, now he had to set his sights on reconciling with his mom in terms of
Right.
that, because she at first wasn't upfront about who his dad was either. So there's that. But the other example that spoke loudly in my mind to your experience is Jackie Hill Perry. I don't know if you're familiar with her or if you've heard her origin story, but it's very similar to yours. She didn't have her father in her life, and her father, in her particular case, was someone who was abusive and did the substance abuse stuff and all of this. And it was after meeting the people, like his other kids, like on that side of the family, when she was well into her adulthood that she realized, like, oh, God was keeping me from the exposure to the abuse and the substances and all the stuff. Like,
Mhm.
the fact that my father wasn't in my life was actually God protecting me. So just
Same.
like you
So
know,
true.
realized and thanked your mom for that. So
Yes.
that's huge and important. I want to get back to the point that you made about having done inner work before you started writing your books. Talk to
Mhm.
our audience about what that process was like. Was it talk therapy? Was it written therapy? Like, what kind of work were you doing?
Oh my gosh, I was so desperate that I was like throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what could stick. Like I was like, one year I read like 52 books, true
Wow.
story. Like I
A
was
book
so
a book a month.
hungry. I did
Wow.
something called Climber with my husband and I did a lot of the healing work and stuff together, which I was so thankful that he was so supportive, and he had his own stuff too. But he came under the umbrella of me, but he took away whatever he wanted to. And then I went to all of Tony Robbins stuff. That was life changing for me. I went to all of it. Date with Destiny, like in one year, we knocked it out. Like I was so hungry that I just dug so deep into all of it. I did not take the therapy on the couch route, but I did all of these other things, and even till today, I've spent almost a month in India just sitting in sacred temples, like being able to pray to my God, because everybody has a different God there. And so, like, it was all these different things that I took, and honestly, in the breakdown that happened in the past year and a half, I'm thankful because I had things in my emotional toolbox. And so the thing that I've learned the most is, for me, it was important that I have several different ways because everything doesn't require the same thing. So because
Right.
I have all these different things, I journaled every single day for years. I can't even tell you how many years. And I've done the vision boards, which is dynamic. I've done the vision boards with just words, and I've done the one with pictures. Like I have done so many of the things. And then I came to a place where I was like, T, you get to stop doing and just be still. And
Mm,
I reached the place of stillness because the one thing that I discovered for myself along the way was twofold. People always focused on praying, and a lot of people focused on praying. And I was in that line of constant prayer. But the meditation is the silence to listen to what God had to say. And
yeah.
so my prayer and meditation life um, was maximized. And with doing that, my intuition is so keen. It's definitely one of my gifts, my ability to hear from God for myself. I'm not saying that he tells me to call so and so to get him a message, and that every so often, yes, I have dreams and things, but most of it is, girl, mind your business, drink your water and listen to God for you. You understand? Like my relationship with God was like, God, talk to me about me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
help a sister, like, please help a sister. And so that was my love language to God, was like, I want to listen and connect with you. I love hearing other people talk through you, you speak through them to me, but I want a one-to-one thing. Like it's me and you. I want to hear from God clearer than I can hear from my husband who's talking directly in my ear. I don't want to have to wait for a third party to come tell me what God said. I want God, you tell me. I'm with you. If I'm your daughter, which I am, I want to hear from you. And so my healing journey encompassed so many things. And I got to a place where I knew, oh, I need this. So this past year and a half, when I hit the most devastating, I cannot wait to be able to tell people. The only reason I haven't released what that is, and it's something that would have taken most women out. I honestly, truly believe that if I didn't have the emotional toolbox that I had, one of two things, I would have had a nervous breakdown, or I would have definitely caught a strong case. And no matter which one it was, it would have been understandable. And I can say that with the people would have understood why, because it was so egregious. But because of the intuition and all of the things that I did, and I strongly believe that that your community, if they're coming to you for this,
Yeah.
they have the resources. It's just a matter of believing in yourself enough without asking everybody what they think, doing it because you know to do it and you trust God. God already told you to do it without asking for permission, because in this, I can tell you, Melissa, most people don't understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. And most people will tell me it's not right, but I cannot ask for permission from people who aren't even living out the life that I'm willing to live. If
Yeah.
you're doing something in your life that, oh, I don't even want that, why would I be asking you? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so that was the place that I had to get to for me in my healing journey. Find which things in my toolbox. And that's another thing I would invite people to do. Sit down to write down what is in your emotional toolbox. Is it to punch people in the throat? Like, is that what you go to? Is it cutting up, and then just reminding them that you better be glad I found God? I mean, like, where do you go? Because wherever it is you go, that's your highest level of healing. However you respond under pressure, that is your highest level of healing. And it's not that it's a problem, maybe it is, but it's that you get to be honest with yourself of where you are and then take action based on that. If you know that this particular thing is a trigger, then you probably don't want to do that. You want to stay away from that. So healing is all about understanding who you are in any given moment and how you show up when certain things happen. I had to be honest with myself.
Yeah, there's several key points in there that I want to highlight. Number one, the inventory. I love that. Like that's a resource that anybody can use. Like writing down what your go-to emotions are, what your go-to reactions are in any
Yes.
situation, because that lends itself to emotional awareness, self-awareness and emotional awareness. And
Good.
being able to stop yourself in the moment when it happens, so you can be like, okay, this is not the key for this particular door. Let me choose
That's
something
good.
else.
That's
You know what I
good.
mean? So I love that you shared that. The other thing is the importance of community, like having one. Number one,
Yes.
let's start there. Having one, but even having an inventory of the people within your community to talk to about a specific thing, like
Right.
knowing who to not go to about a thing is
Woo!
very important. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I wanted to highlight that, like knowing who
Mhm.
not to talk to, because we have a tendency to, if we're not careful, we'll listen to all of the voices and then have to
Yeah.
sift all of them out, when the better cheat code would be to sift ahead of time, like filter who you're going to talk to begin with. That way the only voices you're hearing are the ones you need to hear. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So I wanted to touch
That's
on
so
that.
good.
Definitely
So good.
appreciate that. And I wanted to jump back to the three things you pointed out at the start of our conversation. You said healing. There was something before healing. There was the first thing before healing, and then there's healing, and then there's growth. Like I think
Forgive.
it's forgiveness, healing, and growth. It's past what you're dealing with in the present and the future. So I'd love for
Yes,
you to unpack those a little bit more with some more specificity.
absolutely. So when I'll give this current situation in my life, right? So forgiveness is all I am forgiving what that person did to me in the past, right? Like all of the decisions that they made that has now impacted this present moment, but it's forgiving all the things that's happened in the past and also remembering that the way we remember things may not be factual. Like we may be
Facts.
swearing that something happened a certain way and it didn't. I'm going to give a brief story and then come back. I was in St. Louis and I did this huge event. Well, I was the facility speaking at this huge event for women who have lost their children to being murdered or something of that nature, right? The grieving mothers. And one of the mothers, she sat quietly. She didn't say too much. She was the cousin of my client. Because remember, I told you all of the things that I have, it's by invitation. So she's a cousin of my client. So it's the morning that I'm supposed to be leaving on the plane. And we're sitting at breakfast because she was like, I really wanted to connect with T. So now she has my one on one attention. It's just the three of us, right? And she mentions that she had a daughter back in 1980 something. And I'm like, oh, and we're just eating breakfast. And she was like, I can't remember what she said, but she said something about her father. The child was born, but the child was born stillborn. And her father would not allow her to even acknowledge the child, like speak about the child. Once the child was born, because she wasn't married or anything, her father said, you're going to bury this child and you bet not say not a thing about this child. Right. And so we're having this conversation. And honey, when I tell you God, remember I told you me and God to go together real bad, right? So he speaks to me and I mean, like better than peanut butter jelly. He was like, T, you're going to, I'm getting chills just thinking about he's like, you're gonna tell her, and her daughter's name Dee Dee. Dee Dee is what she called her baby. I can't remember her full name, but Dee Dee was the name she gave her. And she said, tell her we're going to go find Dee Dee today, because she couldn't even remember where her child was buried, because she went there grieving, and because her father said whatever he said, and so she didn't even know where her child was buried. So I said, we're going to go find Dee Dee today. Did you hear me say we didn't know where the child was buried? And you know how many cemeteries they have? Like, let's just, for real. And then the interesting part is I get up, go to the bathroom because I got a flight to catch. I told I was leaving. Like, I should have been heading to the airport. Get a message from the airline saying your flight was delayed. I said, come on, God. We about to get into some stuff, right? Like, we about to get into some stuff. So I come back, I was like, let's go find Dee Dee. So I said, let's start making some phone calls to find out where it was. And do you know what she knew? All she knew was the child was buried by a tree. I don't need to say nothing else. Like, how many trees are in cemeteries? Like, I don't need to say that, Melissa. You get it, right? Like, okay, all right, girl. But I didn't want to tell her that ain't enough. I was like, okay, cool. So they called someplace here or there, and we just got in the car and drove to someplace. I can't remember where it was, because she swore she knew exactly where it was. So we drive to that place, and what was there was a nursing home. I was like, that ain't it. But then there was a cemetery close by. So we find another place, and a priest tells us, oh, go over to this cemetery. First of all, how we got to pass all these cemeteries to get to this one place was a miracle in and of itself, because we passed a couple cemeteries en route to this thing, right? So we get there, we go, and it's like 4:50 something, and the office for the cemetery closes at 5. We get in there, and she tells the name. She says, and this is what happened. Oh, the story. She had the child, and the nuns took the baby. So she knew that the baby was buried at a Catholic cemetery, but not which Catholic cemetery. And there's a whole lot of Catholic cemeteries, right? So long story short, we found that child that day with 10 minutes to spare. That woman had not seen her baby in 30 something years. And I started the story because I was telling you how trauma and past things will help cause our memory not to remember. Do you know the date that she thought she had her child wasn't even the date that she delivered the baby? Yes. The baby still didn't have a headstone. So from us locating this baby, now this was a couple years ago, she was able to get a headstone for her baby and all these things. And so when I talk about forgiveness, we got to give ourselves the grace to recognize that some of the things that we're forgiving ourselves or forgiving other people for, we may not even be remembering the trauma the exact way it happened, because we have distorted some of the things, whether to protect ourselves or whatever the case. So that is forgiveness. Healing is this moment. What am I doing in this moment to heal? How present am I? How conscious am I? And how much accountability for what has happened am I taking? And I'm not saying being accountable for someone else's harm to you. I'm saying being accountable for how long you've decided to carry that pain, how long you've decided to carry on with the story. Because people who are watching this thinking about writing a book, why wouldn't you write the book? You have told that story 1,000 times over and over to people who can't help you, but you're not telling the story to people who can actually be healed from it. So healing is us giving ourselves permission to be honest with ourselves and accountable for where we are. And then the growth is like, where do I want to go? How do I want this to impact me? Too often we give too much credit to how we want it to transform everyone else's lives. And then we're upset when it doesn't fold out the way we want it to. But my focus in writing these books wasn't just for everyone else. It was for me. And literally a year after I released those books, only God knew what I needed in that moment for this moment. All the people, all the continents, all the messages that I've said, only God knew, T, you was going to need your own words. So I find myself binging my own information, right? Because I know that it's inside of me. And so that's the forgiveness, healing, and growth. Know that you're not going to always remember things properly from the past. Be super accountable for where you are in your healing journey, and be very clear on what your goals are for your growth and where you're going.
Beautiful. Everybody watching and listening, run that back. That portion right there was a masterclass. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. A couple more things I want to ask about. This is with regards to the books. So one, it sounded like you were saying earlier that are they journals or are they like prose? Like what kind of books are they? What would people experience when they read them?
They are hold on. I know you normally
Yep.
don't go off camera, but remember I told you I was binging one of them, so
Yep.
I'm gonna open it up. So
Yep.
this is how thick it is. That's not the size
That's
of a journal, right?
that's
So
a
it
good size.
literally is a book journal. So every single day there are 21 things, 21 different conversations that I'm having with you, and there's like a reflective part of the day, an inner piece, and then I ask the question. So this one is forgiving past money mistakes. So I forgive my mind for allowing money to have power over me. That's
Mm,
day 4, right? So in day 4, and all the days have the consistent in every book. Every single day has a different topic. And then you have your forgiveness reflection of the day. So whatever it is that's written for that part. And then you have your meditative thought of the future. So your forgiveness, remember the past, meditative thought for the future. We're going to go into the growth, right? But the journal part is your healing part. I put it
yep.
out right. And so your journal prompts for the day are your healing parts. So for this one, the deeper connection within is what emotions arise when I think of my past relationship with money, specifically when I didn't value it as I should have. That's your
Mm,
healing. That's that accountability, all those things. So throughout all the books, it's that. And so it's a book journal. Y'all, lean in, authors. You get to write the book however the world you want to. It's your book.
however, yep.
There's a woman who wrote a book called What Men Know About Women. I don't know if you know about it. And guess what she wrote? Nothing. The pages are blank. She took a spine of a book, look it up. Sold millions of copies of a book that has a spine that says What Men Know About Women. Ain't nothing. I'm talking about blank pages because they don't know nothing according to her. The woman sold
Wow.
millions of copies. My point is, don't do it the way they did it, whoever they are. Decide how you want to do it and keep it moving.
I love it. I love that. That is hilarious.
Very
That
funny.
I mean,
It was
and
some
that's
years
exactly
ago, but I
why I sold a million copies. Like that is the like the partial joke, but kind of like half truth. You know what I'm saying? Like that is what sold it. Like it was the novelty of that made it go over. I love
I
it.
thought it was great. I was like, and can I give your people some statistics? Look them up. I might not be exact, but the reality is, of the people who read your book, of the people who purchase your book, only 10% of them are going to read the whole book. So you sitting here stressing yourself out for the sale that only 10% are read. Melissa, I'm telling you, one of my books, I decided I'm gonna start it strong, and in the middle, I'm just gonna put blah, 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 like pages of just blah, 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 period, right? To see who got to the middle and then finish the end strong, because people will read the beginning and the end, skip the. I bet you people don't even know I put blah, blah, blah in there because they didn't read that part. I'm being funny, but I'm not, because I promise you, one of my books is going to do that just because I want to see how many people actually got to chapter 7 and and caught that. Don't overthink it. Just get it done.
Great point. Great point. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm somebody that's a linear reader. Like I'm reading the whole thing. If I'm picking
Me
up a book at all, I'm covered. Yeah, cover to cover. Like I want to see all of what's in there. Like ET was actually the first person that introduced ET and CJ. They were the first ones that introduced me to the concept of only partial reading. Like
That's
they'll
speed reading.
skim, find a specific chapter or a specific concept, and just study that and put the book
Mhm.
down. I was like, that's a thing. I didn't even know that was a thing until they said that. So you're
Yep.
absolutely right. Like there are plenty of people, especially like high level people, like millionaires, billionaires, people who are always busy. They're just looking for the bit of information that's going to help them. Just the bit of information.
That's it.
They
One
don't need to
tip.
read the whole thing. So that'll definitely free you up. Who are listening or watching, that can free you up in terms of that perfectionism thing, because we tend to do that too. Like, oh, like I need to make
Mhm.
sure all the details are super accurate, super correct. And trust me, yes, have your standard,
Of
be
course.
excellent. Just
Mhm.
know that you don't have to worry about impressing the reader. Like most of them won't finish the whole thing. Make sure the information is accurate so that when they read
Absolutely.
it, the little bit they
Excellent.
take is
Right.
correct. But yeah,
Right.
like
The point
don't
isn't
have
to
that
be
fear.
lazy. The point is to give you inspiration to realize that you have agonized 10, 20, 50 years of your life on doing something that people aren't going to take what you think they're going to take from it anyway. So you may as well put it out there and give it your
Exactly.
all.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Wow. So with all of this, because I can keep going, Where can people find you, connect with you, purchase your books? Let them know.
Absolutely. So the website is forgivenesslifestyle.com for the books. And on all social media platforms, Healing with Tuniscia is my handle, Healing with Tuniscia.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for coming on, Tanisha.
Thank you for
Definitely,
having
definitely want to have you back on to talk about this forgiveness stuff on a regular basis, because I know this is a whole thing in terms
me.
of women overcoming or navigating their trauma or transition, because they may have come through the trauma, but may that forgiveness step might not have happened yet. So like
Right.
the
Right.
insights that you shared today, I really appreciate. And yeah, definitely want to have you back on for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Melissa. Thank you.
Powerful conversation, right? I hope you took tons and tons of notes. I know I have several different takeaways from this interview, not only as it relates to the book information, like her publishing experience, but also all of the tools that she provided on forgiveness. Like this was an incredibly enriching conversation for me as well. So procrastination bully is constantly on a quest of learning as well. So don't think I ever stop, learning or growing. I'm growing as well. So let's continue to learn and grow together. Be sure to comment your takeaways and your ahas below. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe there at Getting the Win. You can follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Threads at Getting the Win Show. And of course, if you're an audiophile, you can catch the show on Spotify, Getting the Win Show on Spotify. And if you need to connect with me to book me for speaking engagements, because of course I speak on the writing process, and also I speak on personal development topics like this one, like forgiveness, emotional awareness, self-awareness, situational awareness, those things, you can contact me on LinkedIn. Just find me at Melissa Thomas. That's Melissa with 2 L's and 2 S's. And of course, I'm also on TikTok at Melissa T. Writes. Melissa T. Writes. Both the LinkedIn and the TikTok, Melissa with 2 L's and 2 S's, okay? My name is spelled the British way. But in the meantime and between time, please use what you learned today. Apply these things immediately, because we all have to learn and apply the tools of forgiveness, even if only to ourselves, like forgiving ourselves for our decisions, for the way that we speak to ourselves mentally, because mental talk is a whole thing, and that determines how we interact with other people. So please be sure to apply what Tanisha shared with you today, especially as of this recording, as of the time that this is dropping, we are in a new year. So yeah, let's move forward on the good foot. You know what I'm saying? Get on the good foot for my old school folks. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But yeah, have a great and productive rest of your Wednesday, and a great and productive rest of your week. Peace.